Welcome to Situational Awareness. I'm Simon Essler, and this is my weekly monologue. This week, I want to talk about two different kinds of warfare: narrative warfare and asymmetrical warfare. In a recent interview, General Michael Flynn spoke about the fact that there are ongoing attempts to assassinate Donald Trump, not by means of actually killing him, like JFK, but by means of narrative warfare.
What they're doing to Donald Trump is they are trying to assassinate Donald Trump by narrative, okay, by narrative, because John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Robert F. Kennedy as well, Martin Luther King as well.
Right.
They were physically assassinated, and physical assassination is a very messy business.
It is far easier and more effective to utilize the conditions and resources of fifth-generation warfare to assassinate someone's character. I thought this was a really clear example of narrative warfare, and looking back since 2016, it is easy to see that an ongoing list of narratives have been curated as an attempt to assassinate the character of Donald Trump. From the failed Russia investigation to claims that Trump called all Mexicans rapists and murderers, into what we see happening today, which is new narratives that claim Trump will destroy America. Forgetting one's personal opinion of Trump, it is a helpful form of contemplation to consider the coordinated effort it has taken to construct and wage these narratives. Even though support for Trump has grown in all the minority populations he is allegedly racist towards, there is a never-ending stream of new narratives to maintain the notion that Trump is a racist, sexist, bigoted pig, constantly breaking the law, a supervillain. You don't have to be a fan of Trump to see that these efforts seem to have failed. Consider that the largest news media apparatus in the world, in coordination with big tech, has actively sought to assassinate Trump's character and alienate his followers since 2016. We're going on 7 to 8 years of non-stop narrative warfare. And in the face of this, support for Trump has grown, while viewership for the media entities targeting him have fallen. Meanwhile, the Twitter files have made it clear that there was an actual conspiracy to use big tech to alter the outcome of the election between Biden and Trump, a la Hunter Biden laptop. Not to mention, years earlier, the Project Veritas releases showing Facebook whistleblowers who exposed the fact that employees of Facebook were told that attacks on straight white men, especially Trump supporters, were allowed. Facebook employees were told that on their platform, supporting the Make America Great Again campaign should be treated as comparable to Nazis and white supremacists. In fact, these whistleblowers went so far as to reveal that it was okay for left-wing users to utter death threats to Trump supporters. Now really step back and understand the scope of this coordinated effort. Try to understand the magnitude of this narrative warfare and how startling it is, not only in terms of the sheer effort put into this assassination attempt, but also how incredible it is that it seems to have failed so miserably. Which brings us to the concept of asymmetrical warfare. This is the David and Goliath notion of modern warfare. Strength in war is no longer confined to those of equal kind. David evolved to understand Goliath on a much deeper level. The concept of conducting operations that mind control and utilize small, highly radicalized groups of people to change the fabric of an entire nation is one of the most important examples of asymmetrical warfare today. Asymmetrical warfare tells us that small, concentrated, or decentralized groups can use sophisticated operations to take on entire militaries. Size and manpower have been replaced by sophistication, creativity, and insight. Which kind of reframes the fact that the narrative warfare being waged towards Donald Trump has failed to stop his following from growing, since, according to the tenets of asymmetrical warfare, that may not matter. The fact is that as long as this narrative warfare can keep a small group of people radicalized so that their cognition and behavior are at the whims of compromised media, big tech, and other radicalized inputs like post-secondary education, the asymmetrical warfare can continue. Consider that if the means exist to amplify the sentiments and reactivity of this radicalized group still exist within the mainstream media, and the echo chambers cultivated by big tech censorship, then the means to overpower the massive support for Donald Trump exists. The threat is still real. That's the nature of asymmetrical fifth-generation warfare. But to get a deeper look at these ideas, let's step away from Donald Trump for a moment and look at the ongoing struggle with gender ideology. On July 2nd, Elijah Schaffer put out a Twitter poll, which was engaged by over 65,000 users, which asked, would you rather have your son be in the KKK or be in the LGBTQ+? Almost 75% chose the KKK, while 25% chose the LGBTQ+. I saw Christina Buttons post about this on Instagram, emphasizing how disheartening these results were and that this reinforced her sense of political homelessness. In her eyes, this was conservatives taking an extreme position. But is this true, given such a narrow set of choices within the context of fifth-generation warfare? I believe the results of this poll are better understood through the lens of fifth-generation warfare rather than a traditional socio-political lens. As I said, we live in a time in which asymmetrical warfare is used to radicalize small groups of people as a weapon for transforming the fabric of an entire nation. This requires narrative warfare that cognitively entrenches people more deeply into political ideologies as a means of control. In my opinion, this particular survey only reflects these warfare operations and does not represent growing hatred towards same-sex rights in any way, nor does it represent a conservative commitment to overt racism. The two choices are purposefully extreme. What's more, the narrative that an alleged LGBTQ+ community is targeting children is being intentionally used to radicalize the right against the left. Meanwhile, all the same narratives targeting Donald Trump are cast upon the entire right wing, including the idea that conservatives are engaged in a form of trans genocide. Is there an actual majority of people on the left who believe this? I don't believe so. But this is asymmetrical warfare. That's not needed. If this minority's voices can be uplifted and turned into the mirage of a left-wing majority pushing back against dissent. The fact is, there are plenty of people on both sides who stand against affirmative care and the radical notions of gender ideology, but as long as people on the right believe that there is an actual unified LGBTQ+ community targeting children, they will be at the whims of narrative warfare that seeks to manipulate them from an emotional standpoint. Meanwhile, they are blinded to the fact that there are left-wing people who oppose this, but more importantly, there are a growing number of gay, lesbian, and even trans people who are outright against what is going on. There's the example of Gays Against Groomers, in addition to the LGB Alliance and Lesbians United, all releasing statements against influencing children with gender ideology, not to mention the inherent homophobia these groups claim it foments. But between the radicalized minority within left-wing ideology and a not-so-united LGBTQ+ community, these two different forms of warfare take advantage of people's emotional states and the cognition they lose when they respond from heightened emotion. Given this manipulation, the survey preys upon the heightened emotionality of children being under attack and places it against an entity, the KKK, that does not embody anywhere near the same sense of real-time danger and is more associated with past traumas. I think, given all of this, it's entirely unsurprising to see this response. It doesn't represent actual racist beliefs. And when I say racist, I don't mean the CRT kind of racist, which cites a conspiracy theory that whites are consciously and unconsciously seeking to rule the world from their unending sense of selfishness and narcissism. I mean the actual belief that one race is superior to another. Nor does it represent homophobia or a growing sentiment in the majority of conservatives against same-sex rights. These aren't the things that should concern us right now. What should concern us is the use of narrative warfare to keep a small, radicalized, mind-controlled group of people in a toxic relationship with a media and technology complex that is intent on installing a new world order. And this is the use of narrative warfare to wage asymmetrical warfare. So if you're someone who has come to realize that those of us standing against the New World Order, either consciously or unconsciously, left-wing or right-wing, are the majority, don't let that distract you from the operation we are up against, because this apparatus is a master at waging asymmetrical warfare. It doesn't need the majority, only the illusion of it to continue to insert into the Overton window, the sphere of ideas that allow for policy change, the necessary narratives to allow the uniparty agents in government what they need to justify the New World Order accordingly. We cannot settle into the idea that being the majority is enough in the battle of fifth-generation warfare. That being said, we do need to move past the idea that we are not the majority. We are, and that's a major resource for morale. This is a long war. It's not ending anytime soon. So take solace in our numbers, while also recognizing what we're up against. This may mean easing off your political identity, while keeping in touch with what it means to be politically active on a local level. Take, for example, this Instagram post from the owner of Metroflex Gym, Louis Uridel, who boasts 134,000 followers on Instagram. While sharing a viral video of what is obviously a young boy being traumatized by an aggressively sexual performance, he states, "Libs, kids need to be exposed to new and educational experiences," citing this video as an example of what liberals as a political group are supposedly promoting. I don't agree that the origins of this manipulation are actually rooted in a political wing in the sense of a portion of the population generating these cultural changes from a grassroots organic standpoint. We are up against a small group of wealthy elites using a uniparty to establish a new world order. These manipulations come from a small group that understands human behavior much more deeply than the everyday person. So while I believe examples like this should be called out, I don't believe it should be used to entrench us further into political identities by using terms like lib or libtard. What we are up against is far more sophisticated than a political struggle. And this is the razor-thin line we must walk. Political identities are useful when they are defined by us in terms of our personal values and principles that we have come to live every day through knowledge of self and the world we want for our children. But they are a very dangerous phenomenon when they are handed to us by centralized systems of cultural production. Remember, the media and technological apparatus we are up against is perfectly capable of taking a small, radicalized minority within the left-wing population and making conservatives feel like they are all extremists on the left. And that what we're seeing in instances like this one is a representation of people who have developed a political identity in terms of their personal values and principles that they have come to live every day through knowledge of self and the world they want for their children. But this is no longer true if the entire left wing of politics has been infiltrated and turned into a factory for narrative warfare using asymmetrical operations to socially engineer us towards a new world order. We are easily influenced. We are surrounded by influence operations. And both left and right are being handed their political identities by a centralized system of cultural production every day. It takes work to construct a political identity through lived experience and the discipline of adhering to one set of values and principles. It's much easier to let someone else construct that identity for you. In fact, it makes you wonder what it would be like if we could bring back to life genuine discussions and debates across the political aisle between two examples of political identities that truly represented this organic notion of left and right-wing values and identities. But the only way we can get back to that is by resisting the narrative warfare that seeks to tap into our emotions so that we can have our critical thinking sacrificed in the flames of asymmetrical warfare. These ongoing operations take the small radicalized group on the left, shove them in the face of triggered right-wing citizens, and then watch them deepen their own divides while the children burn. So today, I'll end with a question, an invitation. Can you take the time to find someone who stands in political opposition to you, who has cultivated that position organically, and can you learn from them? Conversely, can you see in yourself and anyone else in your political community examples of commitments to this political identity that may have been handed to you rather than gained through lived experience or a well-worn family legacy? Can you start to see the difference between people parroting socially engineered political identities and the use of politics to build the world we want, a world free of the New World Order? If you can, you may start to remember that to build that world, we will need both sides of the political aisle and the creative tension they generate together. In fact, this is the only tension that has ever united us enough to make true progress as a species. If we walk into the trap that says the whole world becoming politically conservative is what will stop the New World Order, then we are giving up free thought and the ability to use political tension correctly without the influence of narrative warfare plugged into asymmetrical operations. Thank you for watching. I'm Simon Esler, and this has been Situational Awareness, and this was my weekly monologue. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, consider supporting my work, including streaming my latest documentary, Cut, Daughters of the West, which you can purchase and stream on demand at daughtersofthewestfilm.com. And don't forget to keep an eye out for the live counterpart to my weekly monologues, where I'll be broadcasting on Rumble and Pilled.net.